Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star original continent based on novel. So let's start. Inside the Silver Palace next to the towering Wuchi Tower in Godly King Valley, the four leaders sat on their thrones. They all watched the floating display screen, which showed everything happening in Wuchi Tower. Ha ha. He easily went through the third level, said the Black Mist. In my opinion, his willpower must be at the level of a true god of void space if he went through the third level that easily. His willpower is at such a level, yet is only a law master. He's indeed exceptional. The silver-armored female leader said, "Look at the blade technique he shows while using Golden Claw God. It's so exquisite that it's at least at the elementary true god level. Body technique, blade technique, and willpower. He's exceptional in all aspects. He's definitely the strongest one I've seen since I became a leader." The leader stared gravely at the screen. "I hope he can reach the top of Wuchi Tower. If he can, then we'll finally live up to the expectations of His Majesty the Godly King." The other three leaders were silent. The expectations of the Godly King. All gazed at the screen displaying the scene of the fourth floor of Wuchi Tower. The second floor is for prizes. I wonder which prize that Soldier Milky Way will choose. The 15 surviving soldiers on the fourth floor of Wuchi Tower had long expected this. According to what Wuchi Tower had told them before, there were only death traps in the first 3 floors, which meant only the first 3 levels would pose a danger to their lives. From the 4th floor up, there would only be prizes. They would be safe from now on. All the soldiers were full of expectations. Prizes in Wuchi Tower. What kind of prizes? Time and space trembled. The 15 soldiers were transported to the 4th floor, and they all looked around. Luo Feng looked around, and the portals around him extended. On the walls beside the portals were many trees and bodies. It was as if their countless living and dead creatures were sealed on the walls beside the portals. A maze? Luo Feng thought. There is a portal on my left side and one on the right. The 15 soldiers glanced around, hesitant. None dared to do anything. Instead, they waited for the guide of Wuchi Tower. A light appeared, surrounding the soldiers. Lucky soldiers. You're all indeed the lucky ones, because you have reached the 4th level of Wuchi Tower, and from now on, you'll be safe. No soldiers are allowed to fight each other. Otherwise, you will be executed. The first line of the introduction immediately relieved all the other soldiers. They glanced at Luo Feng. They weren't as tense or as frightened as before. Instead, they relaxed. "There are many prizes on the 4th level of Wuchi floor," said the voice. "There are 4 portals around you, and they represent 4 different prizes. The one with dimming white light is the portal of valuables. Once you enter, you can acquire valuables such as machine-type weapons and valuables used to recover your godly bodies. The one with dimming golden light is the portal of inheritance. There are some special techniques through that portal, and if you're lucky, you might get some extraordinary techniques. The one with dimming purple light is a path to true gods. It will guide you on how to make a breakthrough and how to become a true god. That's the law path. The one with dim black light is also a path to true gods, but it's following the path of godly power. You will be stronger, but it's hundreds of times more difficult. You can only choose one of these 4 portals. The prizes you earn from those portals will decide whether or not you can enter the 5th floor. Choose, lucky soldiers." Then the ancient voice faded away. Luo Feng and the others all looked around at the 4 portals representing different prizes. A giant black snake strange beast with skulls crawled to the golden portal. The techniques in Wuchi Tower must be extraordinary. With the special techniques, I'll be able to wield more power when fighting great beings at the same level. "I've been stuck at Law Masters for too long a time," said a short tribal warrior. "I must become a true god. The godly power path is too difficult, so I might not gain anything." He entered the purple portal. The soldiers selected their portals one after another. Some thought they could get guides on how to become true gods in the army, so they chose techniques or valuables. Some wanted to become true gods as soon as possible, so they chose the path to true gods. Though 8 of the 15 soldiers chose the paths to true gods, 6 of them chose the law paths. All of them knew that law paths were more common and easier while the godly power path was much more difficult. They weren't even sure whether they could succeed on the law path, so they didn't dare to try the godly power path. After all, it was only a guide. The godly power path, said Luo Feng. I'll see what kind of special guide His Majesty, the godly king from the world of Jin has prepared. Luo Feng didn't even hesitate. He chose the godly path to true gods immediately. Valuables. He had acquired enough. Luo Feng didn't think he could get any exceptional valuables after only 3 levels. Techniques. He had plenty of powerful techniques from Duan Dong River. The law path. He had given up on that a long time ago. The only choice was the godly power path. It had been left by His Majesty the godly king, so maybe he would be inspired. All the 4 leaders gazed at the screen. Luo Feng and the other soldiers stepped onto the godly power path to true gods, and they both sighed. All the leaders exclaimed their approval. Well chosen. The only precious portal on the 4th level is the godly power path to true gods. This is the great achievement of His Majesty the godly king. That soldier Milky Way made a wonderful choice. Other great beings in the army didn't know about this, but they were the leaders of Godly King Valley, so they were responsible for guarding Wuqi Tower. The ideal peerless talent that His Majesty the godly king required would need to become a true god by following the godly power path. There was, after all, another way to prove oneself to be the peerless genius of the godly king, which was to reach 90,000 times life gene level on the godly power path, and to solve all 10,081 Rhinoceros Emperor game solutions all at once. If someone met both criteria, they would be sealed immediately and would obtain Wuqi God. Based on these 2 requirements, it could be inferred that the peerless genius the godly king required should follow the godly power path. After all, when Wuqi Tower was being built, only the godly power path to true gods was carefully designed by His Majesty the godly king to help the successors. Luo Feng walked through the hallway. On the walls on either side, many bodies and objects were sealed as if they were specimens on display. Godly Power Guide. Where is it? Luo Feng kept searching carefully. Suddenly, his eyes gleamed, and he stared at a wall to one side. He discovered that those seemingly simple bodies and objects could be combined into an intricate engraving picture. Plus, some of the specimens bulged from the wall while some others were concave. They formed a 3-dimensional image. The 3-dimensional image inspired Luo Feng. Perhaps it wasn't clear to other great beings, but it was to Luo Feng. He had studied the structures of creatures using his remote ocean many times, and his godly body had already broken through the perfect life gene level. This is the most detailed structure of a perfect life form. Luo Feng said. He immediately memorized the structure. If someone couldn't understand the structure, then no matter how many times they looked at it, they wouldn't be able to memorize it. However, Luo Feng had already achieved a degree of life structure, and his studies were already superior to that stereoscopic picture. On the left, Luo Feng looked to the other side. When all those specimens were combined, they could indeed form a 3-dimensional image of a perfect life form. The one on the right is a flesh and blood type life form, and the one on the left is a plant type life. Luo Feng memorized them all and walked forward. On the 2 walls as he continued forward were countless specimens making up 3-dimensional pictures, and they were all perfect life forms. However, even though they were perfect life forms, there were some differences among them. Even the perfect gene structures of flesh and blood creatures had hundreds of variations. Incredible. It's so detailed. Luo Feng was amazed. He kept walking forward. After only a short while, he reached the end of the portal. There was a door at the end with an incomplete 3-dimensional image on it. Luo Feng smiled. Flesh and blood type. Luo Feng pointed and injected his godly power inside. He quickly completed the 3-dimensional image, forming a perfect image of a creature. He had studied countless perfect creatures. If it had been an energy-type life form, it might have taken him a long time. However, he was very familiar with flesh and blood-type creatures, so he completed it instantly. The wooden door gave out cyan light immediately, covering Luo Feng. Luo Feng disappeared. He's entered it. It's only been a while, and he's completed the task already. His godly body must have surpassed the perfect life gene level already, said the towering leader. Besides, he's following the godly power path. That soldier Milky Way is very ambitious. He doesn't just want to become a true god. Instead, he wants to achieve a higher life gene level. He bellowed out his words. All the other leaders were similarly thrilled. Let's see how much he can get. Even the leaders were not eligible to see the deeper area of godly path to true gods. Wu Chi Tower contained some great secrets. The 4 leaders could inspect it, yet they could only inspect a part of it. As for some special areas, like the 8th or 9th floor, they couldn't even take a peek. They couldn't inspect the deeper area of the godly power path either. It contained a huge secret. It was strenuous to become a true god, and the analysis of life forms was strictly confidential. Luo Feng had the inherited technique from the original universe, creation. They couldn't clearly inspect certain powerful life forms, and they surely couldn't detect the drop of godly blood on Shawu Wing. True gods avoid space, and even eternal true gods weren't able to analyze the structures of creatures. The comprehensive 3-dimensional images were precious beyond words. Of course, they required understanding before they could be memoized. If someone couldn't understand the pictures, he wouldn't be able to remember anything. Those pictures of creatures were only an aid. However, no powers from the ancient civilization were willing to share them, not even Duandong River. Time and space trembled. Deeper down along the godly power route of the true god path, Luo Feng appeared out of nowhere. At first glance, Luo Feng mused, a river. Directly ahead, a passageway was there as usual. The 2 sides of the passageway were also the same, walls filled with countless specimens. However, the wide yet deep passageway before him was a river. This? Luo Feng stood on top of the river, as he looked down beneath his feet with astonishment. His godly power had reached out to detect, and thus, he discovered that this river contained an endless, mighty godly power that had no master. It was like the godly power without a master in the ocean law of the primal universe, where he could absorb it for his own use in whatever quantity he pleased. This godly power is without a master. And such a great amount of it. Luo Feng was pleasantly surprised. His godly body was as tall as 10,000 kilometers, while the width and height of the passageway were around 100 million kilometers. Its length stretched for tens of billion kilometers. Such a massive passageway. And almost half of it was filled with godly power condensed and gathered to form a river. That godly king has left so much unclaimed godly power here, Luo Feng contemplated. For those who remained here to comprehend, once they achieved a thorough comprehension, they would achieve a breakthrough in their godly body. Then, most certainly, they would need to replenish their godly power. Could it be for this reason? Regardless of the reason, if he let godly power go to waste without absorbing any of it, he would be a fool. With a move of intention, Luo Feng eagerly sucked up the godly power water beneath him. Earlier on, when he had been progressing from the 1st to the 3rd level of Wu Chi Tower, Luo Feng had indeed exhausted much of his godly power, especially because his earthling original body suddenly achieved a breakthrough in life gene level to reach 16,000 times. His golden horned beast body had to replenish the godly power that his earthling original body had lost. Thus, the godly body of his golden horned beast was always lacking a great amount of godly power. Since there is so much godly power, I might as well take it all in one go and enable my godly body to attain the highest life gene level that I have so far comprehended. Luo Feng hesitated no further. His eyes lit up. Godly body, reassemble. Luo Feng's earthling body was completely disassembled in an instant. It transformed into mighty godly power. Every life structure of this godly power was reconstructed. Then everything came crashing together rapidly to condense and give form to his earthling original body. Luo Feng's godly body was swallowing from the river in its surroundings like crazy. It sought to replenish its godly body as quickly as possible. At the same moment, Golden Horned Beast was also undergoing a reassembly of his godly body. Shortly after, it too started to replenish its godly power. After a short moment, everything came to a halt. Now, my godly body has a life gene level of around 28,000 times. But I am still far from my target. Luo Feng said to himself. Previously, when Hadbin was about to make his way to Godly King Valley, he had managed to obtain a large quantity of blood, scales, and hair samples from the endless remote ocean of the primal universe. That was when he had managed to achieve a breakthrough by comprehending the life structure at 16,000 times life gene level in one swift move. In the following period of time, as Luo Feng was rushing to get about places, especially while on the third level of Wu Qi Tower, waiting for the other batches of warriors to arrive, he had remained in the space of cultivation where time was accelerated at a rate of 10,000 times. Even with time passing by so fast, Luo Feng managed to achieve multiple breakthroughs in succession, and finally attained a level of 28,000 times life genes level. This was still regarded as reaching a small bottleneck within a short period. At that moment, Luo Feng was certainly making good use of the chance to absorb as much godly power as he could so that he could bring the state of his godly body to its strongest form in one swift move. Yet even with the inherited technique, creation, and a great quantity of blood, hair, and scale samples, there was not once when he was able to attain the first stage requirement of 30,000 times in one swift move. To be more truthful, Luo Feng was indeed a little disappointed. After all, 30,000 times was only the first stage. Life diagram. Luo Feng stepped onto the river of godly power and looked at the numerous complex, three-dimensional life diagrams on the two sides of the river. Blood and flesh type, rock type, energy type, metal type, plant type. There were various kinds of three-dimensional life diagrams, and they had life gene levels that ranged from 10,000 times more to 30,000 times more. The number was far too many. Luo Feng's grasp of the life diagrams on blood and flesh life forms was the fastest, as for the others, he was apparently much slower. In the first place, Luo Feng had placed emphasis on studying the blood and flesh type, while putting others on hold for the time being. But of course, while he focused on studying blood and flesh type, he would also gain additional knowledge about other life forms. Every day, time passed. As Luo Feng was studying these life diagrams in the faraway primal universe, endless remote ocean was also studying them. And in the space of inheritance within the space of cultivation, his golden horned beast body was constantly carrying out experiments. It had only been 15 days. Yet, ever so easily, Luo Feng achieved another breakthrough. His life gene level soared up to 32,000 times. This was mainly because Luo Feng had a good foundation to begin with. Originally, his life gene level was already at 28,000 times. And with a little more contact and comprehension, it was a matter of course that he would be able to achieve a breakthrough to reach the stage of 30,000 times life gene level. The lofty Luo Feng was surrounded by the surging river, which was pouring into him continuously. Godly body, stage 1, its height could surge up to 10 times. Of course, there had to first be enough godly power. Thereafter, he could absorb a tremendous amount of godly power. Luo Feng soared to a height of 1 million kilometers. Even his golden horned beast body experienced the same growth spurt to 1 million kilometers in length. Luo Feng laughed heartily as he stood at this end of the river's passageway. Similarly, there was a wooden door, and on that wooden door, there was an incomplete piece of life diagram. Still a blood and flesh life form. Luo Feng mused to himself. Could it be a test that His Majesty the Godly King set under that wooden door, based on the warriors entering? So if it's a plant-type warrior entering, the test at the wooden door would be a life diagram of a plant-type great being. Luo Feng did not hesitate, and was quick to supplement this life diagram. This life diagram was at a 30,000 times life gene level, and Luo Feng was able to resolve it after a brief moment of careful contemplation. The wooden door released cyan rays of light that enshrouded Luo Feng, transporting him into an even deeper region along this true God path. Luo Feng appeared out of thin air. Right ahead, a passageway was there as usual. The two sides of the passageway were also the same, they were still walls. The difference was that the passageway of the river had become wider and deeper. The three-dimensional life diagrams on both sides of the wall were more complex and massive. The first phase was perfect life gene level, the second stage was 10,000 times to 30,000 times. The third stage must be 30,000 to 60,000 times. Luo Feng's gaze swept over the surroundings. He found everything incomparably mysterious and severe. In the previous two phases of the passageway, I was able to pass through easily because I already had the foundation. This phase of the passageway, I don't think it will be that easy. Luo Feng flew ahead and looked to the left at the first life diagram, which portrayed a blood and flesh type. Based on Luo Feng's speculation, this should be a life diagram that had a life gene level of around 35,000 times. However, one look at this life diagram, and Luo Feng was stuck. There were many areas that he could not comprehend. If he was unable to comprehend it, then no matter how he looked at it, or even if he shut his eyes, he would not be able to recall anything. Only through thorough comprehension could he remember. Luo Feng temporarily put on hold the studies on the other types of life forms, and specifically observed the life diagrams of blood and flesh life forms. For the first diagram, he stood on the river, unmoving, and for more than 3 months, he watched. As he was watching, endless remote ocean in the primal universe was executing the inherited technique creation to observe those true God samples of blood, scales, and hair, while his golden horned beast body was relying on the 10,000 times acceleration in time to consistently study and analyze the samples. What might have seemed like more than 3 months was actually a few thousand years. But he did finally finish a thorough comprehension. For the second diagram, Luo Feng stood and watched for more than a month. For the third diagram, he looked on for more than half a year. Luo Feng purely focused on the life diagrams of the blood and flesh life forms. From low to high, he observed. Thereafter, he would compare them with some of the life structures of true gods observed by endless remote ocean, who was making use of the inherited technique creation. Then he would study them in more detail. Under 10,000 times acceleration in time, he continuously researched the different changes in life diagrams and the significance such changes represented. How mysterious. It was as though he was creating a technique. And Luo Feng's grasp of life gene level was continuously on the rise, too. After a year and 6 months, Luo Feng's life gene level had skyrocketed to 40,000 times. After around 80 years, it had reached 50,000 times. However, during the following 1,000 years or so, Luo Feng remained stagnant at this phase, unable to achieve a breakthrough. Yet Luo Feng could not bear to leave this passageway. This true God path was an incomparably precious plot of land. Even the pulse of Duan Dong River did not have such a detailed series of life diagrams to begin with. And he had to stay here to comprehend, because the moment he left, anything he had not comprehended thoroughly before would be forgotten right away. There was no way he would be able to recall anything. 1 era. The maximum time given to complete a mission to receive a title was 1 era. When the next era comes, it will be time for the next mission term. I have to try my best and put in my all to gain much more within this era, even more than what I have already gained now. Such precious life diagrams, all placed before me, where I can view them to my heart's content. I even have the inherited technique creation. 2 great advantages are working to my benefit. If I miss such an opportunity, I might have to devote a period of up to 1,000,000 times longer in the future, or even longer. But still, it might not be as rewarding as what I stand to gain now. Luo Feng did not dare go easy on himself. Outside Wuqi Tower, a warrior was removed and sent out. On the 3rd level of that silver-grey palace beside Wuqi Tower, 4 figures stood by the railings as they looked down at the warrior, who was being moved out. From within Wuqi, the other warriors are being sent out one by one, lamented the burly commander. They have maxed out the limit on their period of stay on the 4th level. That warrior Milky Way had accomplished even more and can stay on longer. How rewarding it had been for him on the godly power route of the true God path up until now, no one knows. The other 3 commanders also looked toward Wuqi Tower. They could not see what was happening inside. But they were all clearly aware that, since Warrior Milky Way was able to venture even further along the True God path, it would mean that he could enter the 5th level and continue making his way to the peak. I wonder how much he can gain during this half-era. Luo Feng was not the least bit aware that he could only stay on this True God path for, at most, half a century. Yet it was pointless to know this, because he was already trying his best to comprehend. And he was comprehending like crazy. It was his 4,200th year on this True God path. Almost at the end of the entire passageway, before an extremely large life diagram, Luo Feng stood unmoving. He had been standing there like that for more than 2,000 years. Suddenly, he smiled. The furrowed brows, previously so closely knitted, were finally released. Now, he was fully at ease. The moment he gained understanding, he was enlightened all at once. This feeling of enlightenment was immeasurably incredible. So, this is it. Luo Feng laughed heartily. His godly body disassembled instantly. Soon after, every bit of godly power underwent a drastic change as the elements crashed into one another and condensed together. At the same time, the surrounding river surged in tumbling waves. They too added on to the condensation of godly power. A towering godly body was continuously growing bigger. Very quickly, Luo Feng's legs had touched the surface of the ground of the passageway, and his head was almost touching the ceiling. Luo Feng's godly body stood as high as 100 million kilometers. His life gene level had exceeded 60,000 times. Even with a massive body of 100 million kilometers, it was not in the least bit cumbersome, unlike other kinds of massive life forms that could hardly move about. Luo Feng's current life gene level reached as high as 60,000 times. He had gained such a massive godly body, yet his speed and agility, on the contrary, became stronger rather than slower and more cumbersome. His earthling original body and golden horned beast body had both reached their state of limit. Next phase. Luo Feng rapidly shrank himself and walked to the wooden door where he had used up some time to complete repairing those imperfections on the incomplete life diagrams. The cyan light shone upon him, and Luo Feng was transported away to the other end. There was a passageway before him with walls on both sides. There was no trace of godly ocean water within the passageway, and there was not a single specimen to be found on the walls. It was just emptiness. Emptiness. Luo Feng was taken aback. Luo Feng looked at the walls on his sides, yet there were no specimens or life diagrams. Blank? What does this mean? The life diagrams here are not in the form of specimens. Luo Feng walked forward, perplexed. He carefully observed everything on the portal, trying to find something. He couldn't find anything. Luo Feng found nothing special. Suddenly, ethereal voices reached ears. The voices were thin and weak, yet Luo Feng felt that they were everywhere around him. Gradually, the volume increased, and there were spots of black light merging in the space around him. Countless spots started to gather in front of Luo Feng to form a blurry figure. It was a blurry figure giving out black light. It looked ordinary, but Luo Feng couldn't but feel the desire to worship it. The blurry figure's back was to Luo Feng. "You're only one step away from becoming an ultimate true god," said the blurry figure slowly. "Remember, if you want to reach the ultimate level of a true god, you're on your own. I hope that you can reach the top of Wu Chi Tower." The blurry figure turned to face Luo Feng, glanced at him, and vanished. Luo Feng stood there, dazed. He hadn't been able to even see the figure clearly and hadn't been able to tell what it looked like. However, he had a strong desire to worship when facing that blurry figure, and he wanted to fight and even die for him. "It might only be a virtual consciousness," Luo Feng said, thrilled. "It's much more powerful than the last generation of Duandong River." The last generation of Duandong River had died long ago. However, it had left behind a virtual consciousness in the form of an energy body to select inheritors. Only after that had it dissipated. The virtual consciousness wasn't a life form, but it still carried all the memories of the original being. Memories were themselves a form of strength as well. They knew all the chaos laws and they carried all the memories, so they were indeed extraordinary. Luo Feng speculated that it was a virtual consciousness left by His Majesty the Godly King. The blurry figure of the virtual consciousness alone had made him want to risk his life. If the real Majesty of Godly King were here, Luo Feng might have been willing to kill himself for the Godly King. It must be His Majesty the Godly King. Wu Chi Tower was built by His Majesty the Godly King. And the life diagrams contained in this true God path are all invaluable. I don't even have that in the Duan Dong River inheritance. Even those great beings working directly for His Majesty the Godly King aren't qualified to read them. It's highly likely that only His Majesty the Godly King can leave a virtual consciousness here. Luo Feng immediately felt that this goal of being sealed was tremendous. When he had accepted the sealing task, the only thing he had wanted was that powerful machine-type valuable, Wu Chi God, as well as the opportunity to train himself. However, the life diagrams on the true God path thrilled Luo Feng so much that he hadn't even considered the implications. Even the ancestral teachers couldn't get precious life diagrams like those. His Majesty the Godly King from the world of Jin wouldn't just give them away. Besides, the virtual consciousness that had appeared made Luo Feng realize that things were more complicated than he had anticipated. I bet that giant object in Universe Ocean was the dead Godly King, thought Luo Feng. His Majesty the Godly King died. He built Wu Chi Tower before he died, made Wu Chi God, and set all those tasks. Thoughts flooded Luo Feng's mind. Suddenly, a light pillar arrived and covered Luo Feng. Luo Feng disappeared through the portal. On the 5th floor of Wu Chi Tower was a snowy world. Luo Feng appeared. Luo Feng looked around at the endless, snowy world. This must be the 5th level of Wu Chi Tower. He couldn't help but smile. He'd gained a lot on the 4th floor. He'd already expected what he was going to attain before entering World of Jin, but he hadn't expected to acquire so much. In the past 4,000 years, his godly body had reached 60,000 times life gene level. And he was only one step away from 90,000. That virtual consciousness, that seemed to have been left by His Majesty the Godly King said that I'm on my own if I want to reach the limit of true gods. Luo Feng remembered. Aside from the evolution of his godly body, he realized that the sealing task had a huge secret behind it. He had many questions in his heart. How did that giant object, which might be His Majesty the Godly King, die? And why is he floating in Universe Ocean? Why did the original mind guide us to the giant object? Great Thunder Star Master used a completely different force before he died. Where did that come from? In the Silver Palace outside Wu Chi Tower, all 4 leaders guarding Godly King Valley were waiting on the thrones. They couldn't see Luo Feng, as he was in the deeper area of True God Path. Scenes appeared on the screen. The 5th floor of Wu Chi Tower, exclaimed the black mist on the throne on the left. He's entered the 5th level. It's only been less than half an era, and he's already entered the 5th level. No matter what, he's on the 5th floor now. The silver-armored female leader, the towering male leader, the strange beast leader, and the black mist leader were all gazing at the screen, excited. Can that soldier Milky Way enter the 8th floor? The 5th to the 7th floor can be of great help to those great beings, but they are also very challenging. Many soldiers in the world of Jin have gotten to the 5th floor, but most of them were eliminated on the 5th, 6th, or even 7th floor. Only one could get to the 8th floor. These 3 floors are indeed challenging. Milky Way is incredible. He might actually get through the next 3 floors. There was a huge secret hidden in Wu Chi Tower. The 4 leaders couldn't see the 8th floor, or the 9th floor. Only one from the past generations of elite soldiers had successfully ventured to the 8th floor, but he had eventually failed. The 8th floor was the final hazard, and if someone could succeed there, he would reach the 9th floor. Once he reached the top, he succeeded and would be sealed. On the 5th floor of Wu Chi Tower, in the vast snowy world, Luo Feng looked around. Only me. Luo Feng thought. What about the others? 15 soldiers had been on the 4th floor. The wind and snow started to tumble, and they enveloped Luo Feng. He heard an old voice saying, "Soldier Milky Way, all the other soldiers were eliminated." From now on, you'll be the only one continuing the journey. There will be a powerful creature on the 5th floor, and if you can defeat him, you'll enter the 6th floor. If you fail, you'll leave Wu Chi Tower. Luo Feng considered. Only the first 3 levels were deadly. He was safe now. Luo Feng looked into the distance, noticing a being walking toward him. He wore a white cape and appeared to be moving slowly, but he continually approaching Luo Feng. He had a handsome face, and there was a red mole between his eyebrows. He had pointy ears, and he smiled at Luo Feng as he said, "Soldier Milky Way, my energies will be on your level. You're proficient in blade techniques, so I'll fight you with blades." The white-caped man reached out his hands. The snow around him gathered, forming an ice blade. At the same time, he became aggressive. It was as if his entire body had become a blade. That hostility weighed heavily on Luo Feng. Blade? Luo Feng reached out his hands, and Blood Shadow Blade appeared. He stared at his competitor just as aggressively. Great. The white-caped man smirked. First attack. The white-caped man moved like a phantom. The shadow of his blade flashed. Blade shadows kept appearing, and instantly, billions of them were flashing in front of Luo Feng, as if he was trapped in an entire world of blade shadows. Illusion is nothing to me. Luo Feng's mind yelled, and everything disappeared. But a blade had already reached Luo Feng. Dang! The ice blade struck against Blood Shadow Blade. The white-caped man was blasted back. The white-caped man flew at Luo Feng more quickly, as if he was already furious. Second strike. He was like a ball of burning fire. He slashed low, wielding incomparable force. The world was divided into 2. Seal. Luo Feng's Blood Shadow Blade shook, and a thin trace of blade light raced toward it. Then it became thicker. When the 2 touched, the blade light became a miniature world, enveloping its competitor. The miniature world cracked as the 2 beams of light collided. Strike 3, the white-caped man yelled, and his godly body spun, turning into a blowing wind. Strike 9. Strike 36. Strike 99. Strike 163. The white-caped man was like a madman. He immediately performed another type of blade technique, after each previous strike was resisted. None of the blade techniques were the same, however. Luo Feng, who was putting forth the utmost effort, went from excited to mesmerized as he fought the white-caped man like crazy. I understand now. So, this is why he is trying to do. Luo Feng understood now that the 5th level wasn't a challenge, but a prize. No wonder the ancient voice said that there would only be prizes from the 4 level. The blade techniques performed by the white-caped man were guiding Luo Feng. Through these different ways of fighting, Luo Feng was being indoctrinated. The blade techniques of the white-caped man all belonged to the basic laws: gold, wood, water, fire, mud, wind, thunder, light, time, and space. Although chaos laws were mysterious, and those superior to true gods pursued the ultimate chaos laws, the foundation of the 10 basic laws remained integral. When it came to merge laws and the morphing of the universe, the 10 basic laws were the building blocks. Luo Feng, however, only had a brief understanding of this foundation. However, the white-caped man had already demonstrated 16 different blade techniques, based only on gold law, and each technique had a different conception. Besides, every one of the techniques the white-caped man performed had reached top-tier level 6. How incredible the white-caped man was! How was he able to create so many extraordinary blade techniques, based only on the basic laws? Luo Feng's understanding of the 10 basic laws was skyrocketing, and each strike was more efficient than comprehending for more than 10,000 eras. How could Luo Feng not be exhilarated? This video will end here.